wearing these for a while. Masks. We've heard a lot about the different kinds, but not all masks are created equal. In this episode, I'm tearing through all the different types out there to find out which mask offers me the best protection. Surgical masks are one of the most highly sought-after items in the world right now. It's what healthcare workers are wearing, and probably the best when it comes to protection against a virus. Singapore was depending fully on imports for surgical masks. But in February this year, a foreign supplier left us high and dry, and we had to start producing our own. In February, at the start of the crisis, ST Engineering expanded its capabilities to produce surgical masks in Singapore. Before that, they were producing only N95 masks. Now, I've finally been given access to view that factory. The thing is, it's so guarded that I've been given instructions what I can and cannot show you. I'm meeting with Gareth Tang.
Hey, Gareth.
Hi.
He led the setup of a surgical mask production line in just 2 weeks.
Why is this place so secured?
Mask is now related to national security. It's important what we share with the general public. It puts us in a better position to procure materials from overseas market. Come, let me show you the place. Now we put on the gown.
The gown?
Yep. Let me show you how the mask is made.
Okay. What's the most difficult part of the production chain?
It's about having access to these materials, which is very difficult to get. It's very competitive. These are very high-grade materials. This filter is the most important part of making a mask.
The materials? Various versions of polypropylene. It's a type of plastic that is elastic yet tough. It also naturally repels water. These properties make it the ideal material for a surgical mask.
So how can we guarantee that we will have access to these raw materials?
We source these materials from all over the world to diversify our supply chain to ensure that we have no disruption to the supplies.
Can we make the materials ourselves?
So we are also looking into the process of making this material ourselves in country so that our supply will be guaranteed.
Freshly made surgical masks. I wish I can get my hands on these, but I understand they are not available on the market.
That's right. At current capacity, we are prioritizing this mask for the frontline workers in the healthcare system.
Will there be a time when they become available for people like me?
Certainly, we are working on it and we hope to bring this mask to the general public in the near term.
Thank you. Gareth, I see a lot of masks on the market. Some are labeled disposable, some are labeled surgical, and then you tell me that you make medical grade surgical masks. What is the difference?
There are a lot of disposable masks in the market, but they are not the same. Even if some of the masks are labeled surgical masks, but they will not conform to the international standards. Here we make medical grade surgical masks. And a big part of it is to produce medical grade in a very stringent end-to-end QC control. And that's why we are here. This is the most important part of the QC process. We test the filtration efficiency of the filter, the meltworm layer, as well as the breathing resistance.
I see on the reading that the efficiency level is 98%. What does that mean?
It means that it blocks out 98% of the bacteria and viruses, and that includes the COVID-19 viruses through the mask.
I've learned that there is no way to tell if disposable masks on the shelves offer the same protection as a medical-grade surgical mask made here in Singapore. But if these are reserved for healthcare workers, what alternatives are there for people like you and me? I'm starting with the two versions of government-issued masks. They are considered adequate protection for those of us who are not frontline workers. The first, given out in April, is made of cotton. It was hard to breathe in. The second version, given out in June, is a mix of cotton and spandex jersey. While more comfortable than the first version, I still find it very hard to breathe in.
Today, we will be showing you how to make DIY masks with house items you probably have.
Since the start of COVID-19, I've come across many online tutorials teaching us how to make our own mask. But can I actually sew a mask that is good enough to protect me? To find out, I've reached out to someone who has made over 200 masks since February. Chrisanda Chong is a freelance branding expert who sews as a hobby. When COVID-19 hit, her projects dried up and she decided to volunteer for Ground Up initiative Masks Sewn with Love.
Hi, Chrisanda. Hello.
Collectively, volunteers from the group have provided over 100,000 masks to vulnerable groups.
You've made 200 masks in the last 4 months. What is wrong with the masks that the government gave us?
It sticks too close to my face for me to breathe easily.
Do you have the government masks? I would like you to help me to compare that to what you've made.
Okay. So, you see, it doesn't fit my face very well.
Okay.
Maybe my face is too small for it. As compared to if I have a mask that I sew here. And when I sew, I actually make like a adjustable ear loop for myself. So everyone's face shape is different. So you see, it actually closes up here and here.
So what I'm hearing is that when you make your own mask, firstly, you can choose the design, right? And secondly, it's more comfortable. And because of the space that you give in the design, it's actually more breathable.
Yes.
Okay, it may look better, it may be more comfortable, but is it safer?
Well, in WHO recommendation, it should have 3 different layers. The inner layer is usually cotton, so that it is more comfortable for yourself. There should be a filter media. Ideally, the first layer should be more dense cotton, water repellent if possible.
So am I right to say like these, for example, they aren't actually antibacterial?
No, they aren't. The government must have antibacterial coating, but how many wash it can last and how you wash, you're not supposed to twist it, if not it will damage the function of it. So whichever material that is antibacterial ion, there is probably some extra care you need to put in to make sure that it works.
Chrisandra's homemade masks have the required 3 layers, but they don't come with antibacterial coating. So apart from government masks and homemade masks, what other options do we have? These days, you can choose from so many varieties of face masks. The disposable 3-layer face masks, 2-layer cloth masks where you can insert your own filter, carbon filter mask which is said to block out germs and dust more effectively, silicone GILL mask which creates a tight seal around your face, 3-layer mask which claims to be water repellent and antibacterial, masks made of copper and NANOSILVER, which claim to kill bacteria and viruses. Now, these masks are the most pricey and they can cost between $46 and $76. With so many masks on the market and prices ranging between $8 and a whopping $76, which mask should I splash out for?
Your mask not necessarily effective on this particular virus.
The mask that I see most people wear nowadays is this. But in the last few months, many people, from scientists to tailors, have been trying to develop face masks that are comfortable and safe. There are so many types of masks today. I've gotten my hands on some and will sort them into 2 groups. On the left are masks which claim to act as a barrier between you and your environment. And on the right, those with claims to not only act as a barrier, but to kill germs such as bacteria and viruses. Masks which are purely a barrier. A disposable mask is about 40 cents. A 2-layer fabric mask with space for filter is $8. A carbon filter mask, said to be more effective in filtering out bacteria and viruses, is $15. And a silicone GILL face mask, which forms a tight seal around your face, is about $31. Masks which claim to destroy germs are the second government-issued mask, which is antibacterial. It's free. A 3-layer mask with an outermost waterproof antibacterial layer is $25. And then there are these rather high-tech masks. They contain copper and silver, which are said to have antimicrobial properties. This means that they can kill bacteria and viruses. Which is why a copper mask costs about $46 and a NANOSILVER mask costs a whopping $76. I'm surprised that the price range for these 8 masks is so wide. The ones I'm most curious about are the effectiveness of the wildly expensive copper and NANOSILVER masks. To find out more about the science behind these masks, I'm going to meet an expert. She has spent 2 decades researching the structural and chemical properties of materials. Do metals like copper and silver kill viruses, and how?
Copper and silver has been shown to kill bacteria for a very long time. I mean, in ancient times it has been shown as vessels for containing water, and Egyptian has used this for treating wounds. Okay. So they have been effective. They are effective in some circumstances. For viruses, you need the copper and the silver ions to be interacting with the virus.
Let's take copper for instance. When a virus lands on a copper surface, the copper's ions blasts through the virus' outermost layer and goes on to kill the cell. This means the virus is unable to survive. However, this process takes time, anywhere from 30 minutes to a day. And that's not the only problem.
So if you take a look at the mask structure, you will see that actually there is actually this line that's actually weaved in. This is actually the copper compound coated fibers. The spacing between these lines is about hundreds of microns or so, and a virus about 0.1 of a micron. So which means that actually between these lines you can fit quite a lot of virus, going down to about 100 to thousands of viruses between them. So to put this in perspective, if I am a bacteria, this is the size of a virus, so it's that small. So if this spacing is actually hundreds of microns, essentially if it cannot filter me, it will be even worse off filtering this.
What about the NANOSILVER mask I sent you?
If you look at the NANOSILVER mask, you will see that actually it's actually fully coated fibers weave into the whole fabric, so the virus should come into contact with these silver surfaces.
But do copper and NANOSILVER work against COVID-19?
So actually, NANOSILVER or copper has been tested for a lot of different viruses and is shown to be effective. But specifically to the virus that causes COVID-19, it has to be tested and it has to be conclusive. There are some studies being done, but I think more studies need to be done.
What about carbon filter masks? Do they work?
Carbon filter mask is effective for air pollutants, but for bacteria and for viruses, it definitely has not been many studies that shown its effectiveness.
We know that copper and silver work against viruses, but more studies will have to be done to confirm if it works on the coronavirus. There's also the problem of how fully coated the masks are to offer enough protection. So it might not be worth shelling out big bucks for these masks. We all know that mask wearing can protect us from germs, but long-term use could potentially cause this.
There's a lot of breakages and a bit of bleeding into the skin.
Oh goodness.
How do I protect myself? I've found that it's too early to tell if expensive high-tech masks really work at busting the coronavirus. But there are some things I should consider when choosing a mask.
What you need is a mask with a minimum of 3 layers, with an outermost layer that is water repellent if possible, a middle layer that acts as a filtration layer,
and an innermost layer that absorbs your moisture. Once you've got the right reusable mask, it's about making the most of it, keeping it sanitary for as long as possible. To find out how to do that, I'm meeting with infectious diseases expert Dr. Kalisva Marimutu,
We don't want to touch our nose and mouth.
who rotates between 5 reusable face masks each week. You have 5 masks. Why do you need to have so many masks?
So I have additional masks so that while this is drying, I can use the other one.
So it brings me to the question of washing masks. I mean, one of the good things about using disposables is I don't need to wash them. Is it important that we wash our reusable masks every day?
More than the viruses, our salivary stains have to be removed, and there'll be dust particles collecting in the masks. And I think washing at the end, at least at the end of the day, is important. So what I do is when I reach home, I go straight to the kitchen, take a bowl, and I take off my mask there. I put in detergent and sort of lather it with the detergent, and then put it inside the bowl and soak it while I go change, and then come back, rinse it, and dry it.
It sounds like we all need to create new habits.
Definitely, and it wasn't easy for me to create this
Even
habit.
for you?
No, it wasn't
Oh my
easy
goodness.
because I don't usually, none of us wore masks before this. So it took about 2 weeks for me to get used to the habit. So after that, it became something that I had to do rather than something I had to force myself to do.
Every time I sit down at a table, I remove my mask and then I put it next to me like this. Is this the right thing to do?
No, that's not the right thing to do, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because, usually we are talking about dining outside, and usually the tables, even though they're clean, we want to take the additional precaution of not leaving our masks on the table.
So what do you do to your mask? Where's your mask?
Oh yeah, so when we came in, I put my mask in my mask holder. So this plastic came with the mask, so I just reuse it to keep my mask.
Still on the topic of meals, I'm totally guilty of doing this. I'm going to show you.
Okay.
So I have my mask,
Okay.
and then I let it. So that when someone sees me, I'll quickly pull it up again.
Okay.
So what do you make of this?
Okay, so I have done that before as well, but I don't think it's the best way. The reason is because, one, it may touch your food when you're eating because it's just here, you see. So that's one reason. Number 2 is that you shouldn't touch the front of your mask when you try to remove it. I mean, granted, when you fold it, you may touch it, but when you remove it, you shouldn't touch because the chance of you touching your nose or mouth increases.
The mask is now part of my wardrobe. I work outdoors a lot, so I wear the mask at least 8 hours a day. And recently, I've noticed it's taking a toll on my skin.
I just here to see you because of your skin rashes.
I see. How long has it been?
It was 3 days.
Dermatologist Dr. Eileen Tan has seen an increase of 15 to 20% of patients seeking help for mask-related face problems, including maskne, acne that is brought on by wearing a face mask.
The rashes or the acne tend to occur along the line where you are wearing the mask. Like in this student, you can see that the inflammatory papules, and also you can see that the abrasion marks from the stripe in the mask contact point. And like this particular healthcare worker, you can see that the face is obviously swollen and very well defined, and there's a lot of breakages and a bit of bleeding into the skin.
Oh goodness. Can the skin ever be restored to its former condition in this case?
Well, I managed to. I'm glad she has improved, but of course there's a little bit of post-inflammatory pigmentation. And then of course we have patients who had like rashes around the mouth. After eating, you're supposed to put back the mask immediately, and that can cause irritation around the mouth.
How can wearing a mask create these kinds of skin problems?
It depends on the type of mask that you're wearing, and this can cause a build-up of course, moisture, and with heat, and of course there may be increased sebum production in young people, and that cumulative can result in kind of like clogging of the pores, and that can lead to more and more skin inflammation.
For the rest of us who may not be so badly affected,
Right.
how should we take care of our skin, for example, when we do have to wear a mask?
If you can afford to change your mask every 4 to 6 hourly, that would be ideal, and to try to take mask breaks, like 15, 30 minutes or so. So, and allow your skin to rest. And consider things like a cloth mask, which is a more breathable kind of fabric and more comfortable for the patients.
Am I right to say that the cloth mask is the most comfortable along the spectrum, but it may not be the safest?
Yes, I agree.
So what about this? How's this as a mask?
This is called a silicone GILL mask. So it's supposed to resemble N95, so it's able to offer a relatively airtight protection. But the only thing is it is relatively airtight and it can also lead to skin irritation. So it may not be suitable for everyday use or for people with sensitive skin.
So in my quest to find out which mask is best for me, here's what I found out about these 8 masks. Disposable masks are not the same as a medical-grade surgical mask. You really don't know what quality you are buying. And being one-time use only, it does generate a lot of waste. Carbon filter masks, I find out, are no more effective than other masks when it comes to filtering viruses. The silicone GILL mask fits too tightly against my face and might cause irritation. I couldn't wear the government-issued mask for prolonged periods of time, so it's not an option for me. Same with the commercial antibacterial masks with the water-repellent layer. The copper and nanosilver masks are expensive, and more studies will have to be done to see if they are effective against COVID-19. So that leaves me with this, a 2-ply mask with space for filter. Choosing the right mask for me and those around me is definitely a balancing act. Unfortunately, the masks that offer the most protection are also oftentimes uncomfortable and may even lead to skin problems. And I feel that there's really no need to pay for an expensive mask that claims to kill the coronavirus. So for me, I will stick to a 2-layer cotton mask with space in between for a filter, and just make sure that I exercise proper mask care. Don't mind if I dig in.